This side I don't mind. It's this hand that goes.
It's this hand? Okay. Let me switch sides. What they say about video, Meheru, is that if somebody sits close, it's actually very good because it looks better on camera than sitting far away. Just the distance on the television seems to be tremendous.
But however close you sit, it wouldn't look nice in the video if I poked you in the eye.
That's true. But it would be great dramatic effect, no doubt. Huh? Meheru, what I wanted today was a little bit.
Tell me. Okay.
He's just, don't worry about him. He's just practicing. And then a guy like this, I can't give him film right away. You know, it's just this is all practice shots. What I want to know is, first of all, every day we come here, we see you making these garlands. Where do all these garlands go?
Well, when the garden offers the flowers, then I can make the garlands. And Meheru offers them at beloved Baba's picture, either in Baba's room or on the picture in the dining room. Or then sometimes in the Mandali hall, wherever they feel like wanting to offer a garland.
But a lot of these flowers that are
So that's how they started. Yes, when the garden can offer the flowers, then it can be done.
Would you do something like this also during Baba's time?
Certainly not. In the first place, I don't think we didn't have that much time, you see, because our routine was so set. It had to fit in with Baba's coming and going to the Mandali. And while he was at the Mandali, we were able to do all the other routine things that needed to be done. We had to get Baba's room ready, his clothes washed, a bit of the thing in the garden. Meheru and I would jointly, go around, discuss things. And then whatever she needed done, then I'd tell the garden boys, or we'd do a little bit ourselves. By that time, Baba would be coming back here, so there was no time for garlands or anything like that.
But if there was time, would he allow that type of devotion to, let's say, garland my picture in this room or anything like that?
I mean, on occasion we did it. If it was Diwali time or any festive occasion like Krishna's birthday or something, then Meheru might want it done. She might do it herself. Or she might ask one of us to help her to do it. So then at that time we do it.
But the other times?
The offering of flowers is like the offering a love. And love can be offered in so many different ways, in service, in ways in obedience to Baba, in any way that he wanted it. So I mean, offering of the garland didn't have much importance. It had to be done or anything.
Well, he was right there with you at that time. When did you learn about gardening and plants?
Well, I think we sort of learned it together. Meheru and I would do some things from trial and error, or just, we had a love for the plants and things that we learned that way. Maybe reading in books, we'd read something or the other.
So, but your garden is so beautiful here. Is this through experimentation, or is this...
well, now I think after all these years, let us hope we've learned something.
But are there special plants that grow better in this area than in some down?
Well, at least we've learned that with all the care you give, that certain plants do not grow here. So then we just, when we went on our travels in India, we get so excited over some beautiful plants, and we think of them growing here, but then we found out to our cost that they don't. The summer's too hot, or the weather's too dry, or maybe the termites like them too much.
In just watching the way certain things are done around here at Meherzad, I get a feeling that, let's say, making a garland, whether it goes on Baba's picture or in his bedroom or wherever, that's just as an important of a function in the day as anything else, that's what you said, an individual's offering. But how did it come about that you began making these garlands? Or
actually what happened is that Meheru started doing the garlands. And then I would collect the flowers. And later on, when demand for her time was more with talking with the Baba lovers, then I said, all right, I'll do the garlands. And as you don't have time, So then that's how I used to start, I began doing it, because to help her out.
Do you still go to the garden to pick out the things that you want for that day?
Sometimes I get help, sometimes I do it myself.
What are some of the other things that you do here at Meheru? How do you spend your day?
Well, I guess Baba keeps us pretty busy all the time. Before you come, all of you come in the morning, we have to get, we go for Aarti. Aarti in Baba's room in the morning.
What time is that?
And then
the Aarti that you
it used to be earlier before, now it's a little later, but around 8 or so. And then we have breakfast. And then pitch up your sleeve and start doing all the things for, get Baba's room dusted, tidy. And I do certain dusting in Baba's room, and Meher does all the pictures. For her, actually dusting the room, each picture's like, she'd take, like a meditation, a communion with Baba. It was. So then I try to get all my, things done before she can come into the room. And then go to the garden, pluck the flowers for vases. For Baba's room, the Mandli hall, wherever Meheru feels like, the flowers should be offered.
Do all of you women do things, a lot of the things like eating and Aarti and other things together as opposed to independently?
Mostly together. I mean, Aarti is always together.
Right.
Because, when Baba was in that last phase of his work, up till September of 68, I mean, Baba was working sometimes 3 hours at a stretch, or even more. And this was in the Mandli hall, but later on in the afternoon also in his room, we knew that he was working. Or in the evening when he retired, it wasn't like resting, we knew that he was working. I mean, he wanted complete silence then. And, but the thing is that when he came from the Mandli, after the bell would ring that his time, the work was over, people could come in. Baba wanted absolute quiet then. And we had to be, my attention was more on trying to keep everything quiet rather than do other works. See that the garden boys didn't make any sound with their watering cans or anything can make a clatter, or anything can make a sound. And then afterwards when the bell rang, then we rushed to get all the things done which had to fit in at that time. And then Baba would call the Mandli in, all in the Mandli's presence, however tired, however drained you felt that Baba was of energy, all the attention he put in his work. Just from the state of how weak he looked, we realized what a strain it was, and the intensity of the work we realized from the effect it had on him.
Jai Baba, please come join us.
What?
Can we get you a chair?
No, why?
No, we'll watch Meheru make a garland here.
You help her make garland.
Huh?
Yeah. It's a stop you make garland.
Yeah.
You know how to make garland?
Well, she's teaching me.
Let me see the...
Can we see you finish it? Is it close to the
Well, it
end?
takes a little while to do.
Huh? How long will it take to...
12 years.
And then you see, in Baba's presence, Master
I know
and repentance prayer would be said, and Baba would be standing there. And then when he came here, he came here also, the whole thing was repeated in his room, with all of us being present like that. And that was done at that certain period, not every day. But then we continued after Baba dropped his body to say the Master
I don't even remember that much.
and sing the Aarti. And then we'd bow down at his bed, at his pillow, each one in turn. So it's something when you do it together like that, Baba's presence is so much stronger.
Yeah.
It's as if each one bringing Baba with them. And it's so much, we can bring so much more of Baba like that. So every day in the morning and evening we do Aarti with Baba like that.
Yeah. What time does the day usually finish for the ladies?
Well, I think we can go to bed some around 10:30, 11. In the night, after Aarti, we have our supper and then we relax a bit, do a bit of reading or listening to the radio and things.
Good.
And then go to bed as one wishes. Meheru goes to bed very late because she feels she wants to be with Baba after everybody's gone to sleep and it's all quiet.
Yeah. So she actually stays up very late.
Very late.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. That building in Nashik starts at
Maybe not pronouncing it wrong.
So how's the garlic coming?
Well, I think it'll take a little while still.
Lovely.
Sarzat.
Yes, Sarzat, naam just the...
You definitely have the touch, man.
Mana malam
Sarzat, naam just the...
na the building mud.
Sarzat? And what does it mean?
I don't know. Now look, I don't know, David. So why did you start it again?
Some people must have named it.
Maybe we'll finish a little later, okay?
You want me to go
Yes.
in the
No.
watch over then? Do it on the
Okay.
watch.
Okay.
I want to get it over.
As far as the household goes, would you say that Mera is sort of in charge of things, or what is her role in the house there?
Don't you think you should ask Meheru that question?
I will, but what about your side of it?
The thing is that each one has their own department. We all do our own thing. There's no one in charge of what you're doing or what someone else is doing. Whatever they're doing, they're in charge of that bit. And anything new, anything we introduce or we want, we always ask Meheru about it. And whether she's agreeable or not. And then most often she's practical and she is agreeable. So and then it goes through like that.
Yeah. And what, let's say, are some of the things that Mera does during the day that, let's say, we don't see as people who...
I will not answer that question, Gary.
Okay.
Let Meheru do that. The thing is, what we were talking about when I was completing that garland, which will be used for Baba's chair tomorrow, is that Baba would come into the room, his own bedroom, and with all of us around, we'd all be standing, and Baba would stand up, and the prayers would be said. And so often, because Baba looked so tired and so weak, Meheru would say, "But Baba, why do you stand up? We standing up is okay, but why you?" And he says, "No, I need to stand. You see, my standing up and having the prayers said to me, in front of me like that, is that whenever these prayers are said anywhere in the world, I am giving my presence there." And he actually enacted the whole thing. He actually, every day this was. Till last, I think, month, then he agreed to sit down for only the repentance prayer. But the repentance, the master's prayer always, but Meheru would stand beside him and I think Baba would hold her hand like that.
He would do similar things on the men's side, stand up for prayers. Do you think that sometimes he would do prayers on both sides, the men's and the women's?
Yes, definitely. He said it in the Manali hall here every day, and then when he came over to our side, then it used to be said. Then he'd rest a little while because he was too tired to eat. Then after half an hour or so, he'd relax, lie on the bed, had his hip would be paining him, had that massaged. And he wanted full pressure like that. He used to pain so much that he wanted it thumped hard.
Who would do that?
And I remember when I was doing it, Baba said, "You're not doing it hard enough," and he went through the whole motion, how hard he wanted it done. It was difficult for us to do it. But then, because Baba asked, I mean, we did do it. Because often, the pressure of the work, physical suffering he took on himself. You could feel that he was taking it on himself and through it doing his work. And very often his sign for suffering is, I have to go on swallowing, I have to go on taking it.
But you came to Baba when you were a very young girl and known about Baba. You were raised in that atmosphere all your life. What were your reactions to Baba? Because he was much older than you, as opposed to some of the other women. How did you look upon him initially as like an uncle, or was it always God?
No, I mean from early, as far as I can remember, we always accepted Baba as God. As God. And my mother didn't feel that we needed to go to any church, fire temple or anything. Because God was right there in the house. Why go anywhere else? So, I mean, we always accepted Baba as God. And, I mean, whatever, the prayers and things that we know now, those were enough. I didn't, in fact, learn any of our own prayers. In fact, when my thread ceremony was going to be done, I didn't even know it was going to take place till about a few days before. And my grandmother, Gulmai, was there, and I said, but tell me the prayers, I don't know any prayers, what am I going to say? So she taught me a few lines. But then, what happened, you see, then my brother Palu and myself, we were having that, it was done in Baba's presence in Nasik. And I remember how amused Baba was, because I didn't know what to say, and I'd watch what he was doing, and I'd do the same thing, whatever was done. But then later on I learned the prayers, because I wanted to, But my mother didn't feel that there was much need for it, because she was accepted that just taking Baba's name was just a complete prayer.
So you'd say from an early age, you yourself as a child were able to accept that, yes, this is God and I can live with
No, it's complete acceptance. Because you see, I saw my parents, they also loved Baba in the same way, and because my mother, I mean, from her, I felt the love, the way she served Baba and did things for him when Baba came to our house. In 1937, when the Westerners were there in Nasik, I mean, Baba came over much, spent much of his time in Nasik over there.
That was your house where they were staying, no?
Well, Baba stayed in separate quarters. I mean, the Westerners stayed in different, and our cottage was separate. But I never, remembered my mother worrying about what our meals would be. I mean, she'd just give the order, cook this or cook that, and the servant would do it. But for Baba, she'd personally go to the kitchen. And that time we were day scholars, so she used to drive us to school. So in the early morning before we left, she'd first see to all the cooking and get it done. And then she'd take us to school, because by the time we came back, then Baba would want his meal. He didn't take much breakfast, but he always wanted his lunch early. And so she was so particular that nothing should be wrong, always be to Baba's liking. And Baba would come over to our place and eat in there, usually.
So when did you know that you would be joining him?
Well, whenever I was asked when I was a child, I'd always say, you see, when we were in about 4 or 5 years of age, when I was that age, I had that first recollection of the women Manli. They were staying in Nasik, and my mother would come over every day to see them. So naturally, all the children came with her, and we loved being with them. Even after so many years, we remembered who was Meheru and who was Naj and who was Khorshid and all of them. So whenever Baba asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I said, I want to be in the women's mandali just like the others. And I wasn't fond of cooking. So I said, you'll have to do a lot of cooking. I said, no, I'll wash Baba's clothes, or I'll do this, or I'll do sewing or something. Unfortunately, I did do cooking for Baba sometimes. I have done it. But washing and things, I was privileged to wash Baba's clothes, take care of his room. With Meheru, together we'd make Baba's bed and all those things.
But you came at a very early age, no? About 17, 18?
About 15.
15?
As soon as I passed my schooling, I didn't go to high school. Baba asked me what I wanted, and I said, now I want to be with you. Now there's no more schooling to be done. And that time, Baba had the Westerners and Easterners. So fortunately, he didn't tell me to go to college. He says, all right, since you want it, that's very nice. Stay.
And what year was that you came first?
Came first means
Came to stay permanently?
permanently. I think that was end of 42 or 43.
Just when this place, Meheru, was being opened up?
That was, I think, a year later. We were in Lonavala. That time Baba was traveling, with the blue bus everywhere. At that time.
Yeah. And
We were in Lonavala then, and then we came to MeherBabaLibrary. Then Meheru's birthday was celebrated in December.
I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but you were one of the 4 women that went on the new life. Any striking memories that come to you? And
Somehow that new life phase is very clear. I mean, we lived so many years with Baba, but from day to day what we did, we might remember an incident or two. But that new life was a complete phase in itself, and you remember it because it's different from the rest. We were so cut off from the old life, no contacts with any of the people or anything like that. And the thing that stands out most in our memory that, at least in mine, that was so different from the old life was being so exposed to everyone, I mean, here you live a secluded life with Baba, always the women only, had their own different quarters, you didn't mix with so much of people in the world. And to be walking through the streets, having everybody gaze at you, asking you questions, open to, anyone who asked you anything. And then, I mean, all the other things of doing the household work, helping and all, we've done that so often with Baba, so many different things. But, I mean, trying to make a little go a long way, those are the things that you did in the ashram with Baba, but that complete difference was, without your home, walking with Baba all the time, wondering where you'd be in the night. In fact, not even thinking of that, just accepting whatever it was. And of course, the caravan was such a blessing, it was home for us.
But did you enjoy that phase? I mean, was it more enjoyable to you than, let's say, living a domestic type of life? I
think we liked it. I liked it. At least Baba kept us well enough to, enjoy it. Of course, there were hardships, you felt the strain and doing all that, but in a way, I think Baba trained us for it. Was because when we were in Mount Abu in 49, in the summertime, Baba told us, he showed us around the place. And then after that, he said, now you go for walks every day. And he spent so much of his time going for mosque work and all that. So we were walking and walking and walking. I mean, about 2 hours, 3 hours in the morning, in that mountain air, you didn't feel tired. And we had that practice of walking. In fact, always Baba, even when we were in Mahambleshwar or anywhere else, when there was, a place where you can go for walks like that, Baba always encouraged us. Very often Baba would go for walks with us.
Did Baba give you special roles during the new life? Let's say that you had to make sure that no man, let's say, touched Meheru or something while you're walking or anything like that?
Well, that was anyway. That wasn't anything new. That was always like that. But keeping together, keeping cheerful, even when it was, you might say it wasn't wrong of you to get excited with someone if someone did wrong, or even, if you scolded someone to get things done earlier. You couldn't do that, you always had to remember. You had to keep calm, gentle, cheerful. And we got used to it. But we did feel how much closer Baba was. He was like the companion. So we felt that closeness very much, especially when we were in Belgaum in the evening time. Baba would spend time with us. And then I think the new song of the new life was written then by Dr. Ghani. So he'd play the tune on the drum and tell Mani to sing it or say it. And other things, Baba, some other bhajans and things, Mani might sing, and Baba played the drum so beautifully. In that small room, sounded so beautiful. So it was different. The new life is different from the old life.
Yeah. Do you feel, let's say, that there is a continuation of what is known as the new life, or that phase? Is that a spirit? Are you living that life still today?
I think it's a combination of the two, because we came back to the old life too.
And you've lived a very full life with Baba. That's, you say since you were 15, and then now 12 years ago he passed away. How has life changed since he dropped his body?
Well, a lot has changed. That you can say is a world of difference. With all the Westerners staying here and Gary interviewing me like that. You couldn't have imagined anything like that happening when you were with Baba like that.
He didn't allow you press conferences?
No cameras, no press conferences, no Hollywood here. But we've had a lot of fun with, Baba's taken us so many places in India. We've traveled with Baba, and always he'd like us to, restricted in the way he wants, and yet he'd give the freedom, the way of letting us enjoy things. Maybe going to see beautiful gardens, going on picnics with him, or going to cinemas with him, playing games with him, badminton and other games. Having walks with him. We felt very privileged to be in that close proximity with Baba. He's taken us to the seaside so many times. Seen that there was good food and things, so that Meheru and everybody else would enjoy it. Many, many happy days with Baba. So as a modern avatar, he's mixed. It hasn't been that austere thing, you see, but at the same time, that obedience, that love and everything. But he's made it really easy also for each of us to be with him. And those who couldn't do it, it was, I think, their fault, because Baba was very compassionate.
But how much has the household stayed the same in the way it operates since Baba dropped the body as to before?
Well, as I said before, that when Baba was physically present, the whole routine of everyday life was around him. When Baba was here, this had to be done. When Baba was there, this had to be done. Whereas imagine that vacuum. Baba's not there. What are we going to do? And then gradually we picked up the threads and realized that these things needed done, and these things needed attending to. So from that time, also, everybody's been busy, but in a different way.
Yeah. And did it take a while for you to get used to, let's say, the Westerners and other lovers coming? Because you also were not quite as much as Meheru, but secluded in your own right.
Yes. The one thing that you might say that plunged us into this different life of living in Baba's presence, but not his physical presence, was the darshan that he had himself arranged before he dropped his body. When we came in 69, we'd heard of all the Baba lovers around. We've heard that so many had come to Baba, but not seen them in the same way. In 62, we met many of them. But actually now, everyone's focus was on Baba then. But then now everybody's focus was on us, and that was very difficult to adjust to. But then made us realize how much Baba is still present, his love is still here. And we saw that so many were loving Baba, and they were drawn here by his love. Made us realize that he hasn't abandoned us, he's still here.
In the old days, there was very much a separation between the men and the women's side. Now, you at least see each other, but how much interaction do you really have?
It's there, but that separate is there. We know what Baba likes and doesn't like. So, without being told. We just instinctively do what we should be doing. I think that's the bell to end it, Gary.
Is it the
Yes.
that's the